Hey, everybody, welcome to the Spartan Tool Procast, brought to you by the International Institute of Sewer and Pipe Cleaning, where you can send your technicians to a 2-day course, get them trained by the best in the industry, and get them certified as a drain cleaner. You can visit those guys at www.sewerinstitute.com. I am your co-host, Mike Sekach, and with me, as always, is Eric Boonstra.
And our certified drain cleaner,
our certified producer, Emily Simmons. Eric, Emily, how you guys doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
Good.
Listen, I would make no weatherman. There'd be a storm over in the Mississippi Delta, and by the way, Mississippi's over there. Yeah, there probably might not even be any such thing as a Mississippi Delta.
I've heard of it before.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey, before we jump into episode 13, Emily, we had a really good one last week. So if you don't mind, can you go ahead and recap for our viewers today and let them know where they can catch that episode?
Yeah, episode 12, we talked edge protection with Cam Howie of H2TR. It was great to get to talk to him. He's from our Spartan home state of Michigan. It was neat to hear the story of how he started off as a firefighter and got the idea for this manhole protection ring and just built the business from the ground up. So it's a great safety tool, simple, easy to use. You can find the episode on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Yeah, again, Cam, Lisa, thanks again for being our guest last week. Really good story, guys. If you missed that, please make sure to check that episode out. So for today, we have Move Over Bob Vila. We got Eric Boonstra in the house, going to go over the legendary, industry-leading, extremely original Model 300 machine. Eric, without further ado, let's jump right into it.
A little Ric Flair for you there, Mike. I know you appreciate that.
16-time world champ.
All right, today we're going to do the Model 300. So we're going to get right into it and talk about features and benefits of this machine. I'm going to work through it. Mike's going to talk about some of the selling features and the points of this. So real quick, I'll go over some of the high points of this. The Model 300 is time tested, been around for a long time. It's good for 3 to 6 inch lines. You can run 107 feet of 5.5 Magnum cable, which is what our anchor is here today. You can also get 87 feet of 5/8 cable in the drum. That's just in one drum. If you're out there working and you've got an extra drum or you've got a cable carrier or however you're carrying some extra cable, you can disconnect here at the end of the anchor. You're in the clean out. Hook up your additional cable and either feed that back into the drum or take this drum off, which we're going to go over in just a couple minutes, install your extra drum and hook back up and keep running, and you're going to run about 200 foot of cable on that. So that's just a couple of the features. GFCI protected, obviously, air bulb and hose for your on-off function, and we'll talk safety about this machine. This machine is as safe as they come. Just remember, guys, any machine is only as safe as the operator. So know your machine, know its limits, know your limits as it relates to drain cleaning, and you'll be safe all day long. There's nothing to worry about. But what you don't want to do is get distracted while you're out there. You wind up over torquing. Anybody that's run a drain machine knows how fast the cable can get over torqued and how fast it can wrap you up, and that's just not a good day. So always be mindful when you're running the machine. That really needs to be your only focus. Focus on the job at hand. If you got to stop, walk away from it, come back here, switch this to a neutral position so you walk away. So if a little kid comes up or something, hits this bulb, you're not gonna end up with somebody getting hurt because you left the unit live. So always be safe. All right, that said, we're going to start up here at the power feed. As you remember, a couple episodes ago, we did a power feed breakdown. And real quick, I'm just going to talk about how this is set. And I'm going to ask Kevin to kind of zoom in here so you guys can see what this power feed says. This power feed's equipped with our new knobs that we launched just a little over a year ago. What we have here is, right now this says 5/16. So like I said, we're running a 5.5 anchor, and over here I got it on 3/4. So really honestly, if you torque this down, you tighten this down, you're not going to be set equal. You want to be set equally on both of these sides as it relates to your cable for your feed, for proper feed. Otherwise, the bearings are just going to wear unevenly, and it's not good for the power feed. Specifically, it's not good for the bearings. It'll just cause premature bearing wear. So I'm going to push this in and I'm going to rotate it. And I'm just going to go back, in this case, I'm going to go back 1. And I'm going to, if you see, I push that in and it basically, it'll lock into place when it's in the right location. And you're in the right location when the numbers that you want are facing up. So like I said, our cable size is 5.5. So I'm going to loosen this up just a little more, push over here, and rotate this one back to 5.5. Now I'm where I want to be. So if I was running this out, I'm just going to drive some tension down onto this, just enough to grab the cable is really all I need. And remember, in the past we talked about this. You don't need to tighten this out. You reach a point of diminishing return with this. You can only go so far, so fast. Just get some nice tension on this. You forward, reverse. Get in, get out, back that tension off, and you're going to be good. Before I take this, normally most of the machines you run into in the field, guys have really reefed these down with a set of channel locks. And while a set of channel locks can be a great tool, you don't need to have these reefed so tight. They should be snug, be hand tight, plus about a turn at the most. You don't want it to be able to undo itself, but you don't need to reef this down. Some of the problem, I'm going to show you exactly why we don't want to do that here in just a second. Mike, you want to talk about that while I'm doing this?
Yeah, guys, unfortunately what happens if you tighten those swing bolt assemblies down way too much, that universal mounting bracket is going to drive down on that inner drum bearing. And what's going to happen is now that inner drum is not going to be able to move independently. So the cable's not either going to feed out, the cable's not going to feed back in. And what will happen is now you're going to kind of wrap that cable up as a pretzel because that inner drum is not spinning independently. So like Eric said, very important, once you get those swing bolts tight on there, I quarter turn, half turn, up to a turn. We don't want to crank those things down. We want to get to a point where you're not putting channel lock marks on those swing bolts.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is what Mike's talking about. On the bottom of this universal mounting plate, what you'll see is you've got a small little aluminum magnesium plate here, and it's got a bit of a crescent shape to it, if you can see that. That crescent shape is designed to ride in this brass bearing here. And when everything's in place, this rides in that. And we're going to talk in a little bit about the adjustments for that, because this can come out of adjustment with just normal use of the machine. So we'll cover that when we go to put this back on. But I'm going to set this aside for just a second. So guys, if you got a load of cable in here, and I'm going to push this back on here, just a second, get that on so I'm seated all the way back against the motor. You got a load of cable in here and you're taking this drum off. One thing you want to do is you want to get a good handhold. Back on the original 300s, the first early 300s, this outer drum was not cut with this teardrop shaped, triangle shaped cut here in the outer drum. It came and followed the same line around the inner drum that you see there. Boy, there were enough guys out in the field that just struggled to be able to safely lift this on and off if they had a load of cable in there. So we heard enough of that, listened to the voice of the customer, and we went ahead and we just built this notch right into there. And it's been a kind of a game changer ever since we did it for guys. It's a great handhold. So you got to take this off. You're going to grab that right here, and you're just going to lift and move forward all at the same time. And what you're going to want to do is, if you got a load of cable, you can bring this up a little bit and get this outer drum neck out of there on the front of the casting. You just let it roll down onto here, safely onto the ground, and then you roll that away with a load of cable in it. So that's what you want to do there. Now, if we were needing to take this inner drum out, I'm going to show you that real quick. What we would do is lay this over just like I've got it right now. You've got a small retaining ring here. So I'm going to take my retaining ring pliers.
Guys, that's holding that torque limiting clutch that's on the back of that 300.
That's right. That's right. So there's a couple reasons that you might need to take this apart. Like I said, we're going to talk about how this needs to be adjusted when it's right. When these get out of adjustment, what we see is the teeth on these two teeth on the motor here are super hard metal. If over a period of time, the bracket on the bottom side of that universal mounting plate gets loose, the drum can slide forward just enough to where it begins to skip. These teeth aren't fully seated into this male-female arrangement here between the clutch and the motor. So when that happens, that can begin to skip forward out of there. The drum's actually a little sloppy, might ride back and forth, and we see this get worn down, and in some cases it beats it up just a little bit. These edges round off. They're not crisp anymore. They round off, and it makes it just that much easier for the drum to skip on the motor. Anybody's had that happen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that we want to talk about that in a little bit. Make sure you understand the adjustment there. Now, if this was a brand new clutch, guys, we build these in a jig here in the plant. It's pretty close to should fit every time, but every now and then, if they've been in the back of a TM truck or the jig's not a perfect thing, it might be a little off. If that's the case, it's real easy to get that on there. You want to basically just put that back on, and you want to look at it, eyeball where that's at. If it sits off a little bit, you can take this back off and roll that around and tap it, and this will actually slide around on that plate a little bit. And you can tap that on a firm surface until you get these holes to line up.
And there's two drive studs that Eric's trying to line up right now.
Right.
They go inside that drum. So you got two drive studs that are independently
set. Two drive studs right there. I make it sound way easier than it can be if you've never done it before. So listen, don't get frustrated. If you're trying to do a new clutch and you're frustrated, give your local TM a call. They can talk you right through it. If they're in the area, they can stop by and they can show you exactly how to do it. It's really not that hard, but we're here to help. So, all right. So I still want to get this inner drum out. So I've got one more retaining ring, and I've got a brass washer that I'm going to pull off as well, and then we're going to pop this inner drum out.
And that bronze thrust washer is very, very important, so do not lose that.
Do not lose that. That's exactly right. All right. So now back to the front here. I want to get this in an orientation. So I'm going to pull this out here a little bit. And what I want to do is, you see the arm on this distributor arm here in this inner drum. I need to get that distributor arm lined up with this cut here. That's going to allow the drum to move forward and allow the anchor to get past this point. Otherwise, you got this closed gap here. You're not going to get that anchor cable past there. So I've got that where I want it there, and your inner drum would come right out. Let's see.
Eric.
Yeah, Mike.
I think it's good to point out too. So if we can't get that distributor arm sweep to that cutout, Eric's got a long flathead screwdriver that's sitting on the table, or if you got a long handle channel locks, you can stick it inside of that groove that's on that distributor arm, and you can then twist that at that point.
Yep, good point. So this will come. It's just a matter of getting her in the right spot. I'm going to set this down here because it's a little awkward to work with on a table. All right. So all I did there was put a couple knees on it, push the cable in a little bit. It's just a matter of working the cable between the cable and the inner and outer drum. Real quick, what I want to show you, let's set that down there a minute. Kevin, you might have to try to, you could probably zoom in there. So there we go. If you guys can see in there, you've got your anchor, your cable anchor. You notice where it's at. It's on the back side closest to the outer drum. So if you were putting in a new one, you would loosen those up enough so you could feed your anchor in there and get it behind there and above, closest to the outside top edge of that. And notice we're only about 2 to 3 inches. Actually, that's probably closer to about 3 inches. You don't want much more than that beyond that anchor, beyond that cable anchor. That can cause problems if you get too much of it past there. So no need to put 12 inches in there, just a couple inches. Snug that down good, and you're back off to the races. I'm going to set this back down here real quick so I can work on it a little easier.
Yeah, guys, that was kind of our rule of thumb, is about 3 inches we want inside of that cable lock.
And real quick, when I go back to do this, I'm going to get this down here. And again, I want that anchor to line up in that teardrop shape there that I've got. There we go. And it should push back in there. If you're thinking about it, guys, what you want to do now, I'm going to give this just a push to get this distributor arm back to a point where it can't push out on its own. They can do that. Always make sure you've got some, if you're taking this apart, you're maintaining it, you're putting a new clamp in there, anytime you're taking it apart, make sure you take a second, use that axle grease that we talked about on the power feed episode, and just brush a little bit onto that shaft there, lubricate that shaft. That's gonna make feeding that in and out, and they can, because obviously these are sewer machines, so you're going to get all sorts of nasty water and debris in there, or these need to be maintenance just like anything else. Take care of your machine, it's going to take care of you. Whenever you take that apart, you want to clean that inner drum shaft off, put a good coat of grease on there and slide that back in.
And Eric, it's definitely worth noting too. So guys, you always want to inspect that inner drum shaft.
Yep.
That's on that inner drum. Eric can kind of visibly look at it right now. We're all plumbers. We eyeball mostly everything. But what's really easy is when Eric gets his machine back together, he's going to stand behind the machine and look straight down and make sure that that drum is completely in line with that frame as well. Because what will happen is, guys will drop this machine off the back of a van, 3-foot drop, right? They're dropping it down steps or things happen. But when you do that, that's a lot of weight that's inside that drum. And what it can do is it can bend that inner drum shaft. That's what will cause wobbling and everything else on there. So Eric will show you when he gets done about how to properly stand behind there and make sure it's completely lined up.
Yeah, that's right. So, all right. So what I've done is I've put that brass washer back on there. Like Mike says, that's important. If you don't have that back, you're going to have a little bit of slop there. You don't want that. So you want to make sure you got that washer. I've got my retaining ring back on, and it's clipped into the groove in this shaft, which is difficult to see from that far away, but there's 2 grooves in this shaft. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clutch and I'm going to throw that clutch back on there. And you're always going to be putting there's only one way you can really put that back on. You'll figure it out real quick if you put it on backwards. So, because it's not going to mate back up to the motor the way you need it to. So, and we'll throw this last retaining clip on here.
And guys, it's important. We sell the snap ring pliers. If you're in a pinch and you need some, you can go down to a local hardware store. Channel Lock actually makes some as well. Just try to avoid using a flathead screwdriver to pry those off, because you're never going to get it back to shape again. So please try to use snap ring pliers when you're taking those off. Yeah,
no, Mike, that's a good point. And listen, guys, I'm a fan of the blue channel lock as much as anybody else. I mean, that's Mike and I will tell you, there's no other set out there for us. But I'm telling you what, right now, I have tried, as a TM and a drain cleaner alike, I have tried all sorts of different snap ring pliers. These pliers are so simple. They don't have interchangeable teeth. There's nothing super fancy about them, but I am here to tell you right now, this is hands down probably the best set of snap ring pliers I ever had. I love our snap ring pliers. They are great. They work wonderful for me.
Well, it's nice, like you said, Eric, they're not interchangeable, so you don't have to mess with different teeth attachments. They're going to be good for every snap ring that we carry.
That's right. Exactly. All right, real quick, while we've got this, I'm going to set this down out of the way a second, and we'll come back to that, talk about that.
You've been working out, man. That's a full drum.
Well, listen.
You just one-handed that.
Oh, yeah. All right, real quick, we'll look at the back here. We'll show you what we got here.
New single piece casting.
Single piece casting, like Mike's saying. We're really excited about this.
Yes.
Most of you know you'd have a base casting down here. You'd have the upper back, and then you'd have an upper front casting. That would have been 3 separate pieces in the past. Well, we've gone to a single piece casting now, which is working out really great for us and is being wildly well received. The other thing that we did, and we were very mindful of when we redesigned this casting, is we went to a larger wiring box, because I don't have huge hands, but I'm telling you, when I was a TM and had to replace a motor, it's a good time trying to get a hand in there or trying to get a bridge rectifier back in there. So the one thing that everybody asked for and said is, hey, we'd really like to have a much bigger wiring box, which that's what we've done. And so these are actually a dream to work on now. This is probably one of my favorite parts about the redesign on this.
Well, we've definitely re-beefed everything up back there, Eric. I mean, I get phone calls all the time, guys thankful for the machine parts that we put back there instead of the plastic air switches. And while you're back there too, if you don't mind, you can see where that power cord is sitting behind or sitting in front of the tread assembly crawler.
Yep.
So as you can see, I mean, if you're going up and down the steps, what's going to happen? That cord's going to hit, right? You're not going to hit your tread crawler. So Eric, when you were a technician, what would you do with those switches?
With the switch,
I ran them up through the frame, your air bulb and hose switch and your GFI.
Cord, sorry, yeah. No, if you don't have a cord wrap on the side of the machine, you definitely want to keep that wrapped up around the handle up here. It's, just give it a couple wraps and, you can tuck that in there. That keeps that up off of the tread. But like Mike said, if you're in a situation where you had some loose hose and you're going up, or a loose cord and you're going up and down treads, I mean, you could wear through that jacket if you're not careful with what you're doing there. So you want to be mindful of where that's at in relationship to that tread climber. So. And
then Eric, we got a 120 volt motor, 4.2. How many RPMs is that running at?
About 300 RPMs on that drum when it's running.
Well, that's a coincidence, right?
Yeah, no.
The name's 300, Eric.
That's right, Mike. 300 RPMs all day long, baby. So, hey guys, so another really cool part about this machine, though, I mean, we've talked about the 300 drum itself. This is the only machine that we run and design that is actually capable in our lineup of running a secondary drum. So a lot of you guys have our Model 100. That's a huge favorite. So what we did was we developed a front and rear hub adapter that just takes the place of, and I've already pulled it off, but you pull off the front hub on this and you have another adapter here along with a rear adapter for the Model 100. And this will allow you to run a 100 drum on a 300. So the really cool feature about that is all you're hauling in the truck is an extra drum, an extra 100 drum. So, and in almost any bathroom situation, bathroom, kitchen sink, laundry standpipe, any small room that you can get in with a 100, you're really going to be able to get into with a 300. I never had many spaces that I could not get into a 300 with. So, of course, there's always going to be that situation, but that's why we make the 718 and the Model 81 and the Model 100. But for those guys that are very mindful of the value of the real estate in the back of a service van, making a small investment in this front and rear hub adapter is huge. So this will allow you to run that 100 drum in lieu of a 300 drum. And just in my mind, you're working a little more efficiently and you're saving a few extra dollars on a machine there. So
yeah, 300 is definitely a hybrid machine.
Yeah. So in addition to that, before we go putting stuff back together, we'll talk real quick another option, another accessory for you, especially if you're just getting started. If you're picking up a new machine, it's going to be the toolbox. So we make a toolbox for every size of cable that we offer, from 5/8 on up. As far as the 300, 1065, 2001 go, you can get these toolboxes, and in those you're going to get a set of ugly gloves with branded for Spartan, a nice Spartan red there. Then you're going to get a 2-foot leader, and you're going to get a variety of blades. You're going to get a pin punch stand, a T-wrench for your blade holders, and you're going to get a variety of blades. So this is wildly popular with a lot of guys, especially if you're setting up another van. This is the quickest and easiest way to get your technician out on the road and set up with what he needs to get started and get out there and get after some drains. So great investment as an add-on for a machine if you're buying a new machine and setting another van up. All right, kind of feel like Jack Hanna bringing all the animals, from the Tonight Show. All right, I'm going to get this 300 drum back up here. Now, earlier we were talking about the adjustments on that power feed. And again, like I said, if this doesn't fully set back against that motor and get secured in place that way, you're always going to risk the possibility of the clutch, the motor basically jumping that clutch hub and then chewing this clutch hub up. So got to go ahead and set this back in here now. Of course, it's always easier. There's no cable in it, but if I did have cable in it, I just get this rolled around before I lifted it up here, and I've got this nice, fantastic handhold here, and I would use that to my advantage to get that on there. So get that. All right. So just going to rotate that until that basically clicks and falls back into position. I know it's fully seated. Got it exactly where I want it. I've seen guys lay this up on your back, or on the back of the machine. If you do that, guys, be mindful of the fact that you do have some pieces back here. You've got the air switch. You might want to just lean it up against a bucket or a toolbox or something and not let it go all the way to the ground. But
Eric, I like to, when I did that, I used to like to stand right behind the machine, got to bring it down at a 45-degree angle. Mm-hmm. At that point, I can let it rest kind of on my thigh, right? So I can reach around at that point and just spin that drum. If that drum is close, if that inner drum shaft is close to that gearbox, I promise you lean it down about a 45-degree, spin it a little bit, and you're going to hear it. It's going to pop in there.
You hear it pop and click into place. So like Mike said, I don't have this down on the ground, but if I did have it down on the ground, I'd be standing behind it, and I'm just trying to get a visual line to see how square this is lined up. The only adjustment that's on this now with a single piece casting would be in the motor. So unless the motors come loose, this should be good. That was another advantage of going to the single piece design on these castings. So rolling it right here, and it can roll it from the side, and I'm just basically eyeballing the back of the drum to a spot on the motor, a straight line. I've got no wobble there. I'm happy with where that's at. I kept my hand out here just to keep pressure, to keep the clutch all the way back seated up against the motor. Now let's say I had to rebuild this power feed. I was putting some new bearings in it, or let's say that this universal bracket for whatever reason needed to be replaced. You're going to have to undo that, and you're going to have to take these two little cap screws out of here and take that off and put another one on, because when you buy a universal mounting plate, it's just going to be the plate. So you're going to have to transfer this piece to your new plate. So let's say we've done that. So I'm going to put my power feed back on here real quick. Get that on. And all I want to do, I want to make sure that that's slid into that groove. And looking here, I can see that it is. And I need to make sure that that slides back all the way up against the motor. Make sure that's there. All right, so I'm lined up there, got that where I want it. I'm just going to put this up here a little bit now, if I had done this, this would be out of adjustment. It wouldn't be exactly where I want it. I'm going to put this other one up here too. You can take a deep well socket to make this adjustment with these thumb screws up here like this. So I'm seated all the way against the back. I've either leaned it up against my leg like Mike said, or I've laid it down, or I've just held it and it's there. Now, with either a Sharpie or I've got a little awl here, scratch awl here, this aluminum magnesium block plate, I'm just going to mark a line there. I'll run that over it a couple of times, and that's just going to give me a reference point, because I know that that's seated back there right now. So when I know that that's seated back there, I can make a reference mark here, make sure these are snug down. Then I would go and tighten this back up the rest of the way. Give it just a little bit of a turn just to snug that down. Like I say, we don't need to reef on it so hard that you can't do it.
And there's a way that we can test that too, guys. So when Eric gets those tight, he can go ahead and spin that drum, and you'll see that the outer drum and the inner drum are going to spin.
Yeah.
Now, what will happen is if you get those swing bolts too tight, Eric's going to be able to spin the outer drum, and he's going to use a little bit more force, but you're going to notice the inner drum would not spin.
Yeah,
and that's where we're going to run into problems.
Yeah, and another thing you can do too is just grab hold of the cable there. Make sure you're unplugged. You got power disconnected. You don't need powered on, but just grab that cable, give it a tug. If you see this inner drum turn, you're good. By just sliding that cable in and out, you want that inner drum to move separate of that. If I tighten this down too far and this cannot move independently of this outer drum, you're too tight. We get that call a lot of times. Guys will say, my inner drum's not turning anymore, and they probably and it's usually a very simple problem to diagnose. And we ask if they've changed the drum recently, and if they can move that inner drum separate of the outer drum. If they say no, usually it's just a matter of telling them, hey, you might have that just a little too tight. They check it, and sure enough, probably 9 times out of 10, that's the issue. So there's no need to over tighten this, but you definitely want it to be snug. You want these to be snug, and you want to check these every so often, because the action of taking this out of the van, and as Mike mentioned earlier, if it drops from a height, or you're going downstairs, those are natural actions. Especially going downstairs, those are natural actions where it's just a little bit of weight, a little bit of vibration. These can come loose, and they do. We see it all the time. Just make sure. That's why we want that reference mark there. You got that reference mark there to let you know that everything's in the right spot, because if I see that reference mark, I know I'm lined up back here. So hopefully that's a tip to help you. And then finally, I put this back on here, and as luck would have it, and I didn't do this, we are not set right. I've got 0.55 looking up at me on the back side here, and I've got 5/16 here. So I know that I am not, my bearings are not matching. So I'm going to loosen this up just a minute here, just a little bit. And I'm going to give that a push in, make sure that seats. And now I've got 5/5 on both sides. So with that, I can snug that back down. I can put a little tension on my cable, and I can go to work. Mike, can you think of anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, we had talked about the accessibility, Eric. One thing for me, I ran a 1065 for years and years before we moved to the 300. What was really nice is the basement water closet, right? The basement bathroom. It has kind of a smaller access to it. I was able to get this 300 machine right next to the water closet if that clean out was right there. 1065, I had to leave it outside of the door. I got more cable exposed. I got a cable safety guide. And a lot of our basements here, and especially in Hamilton County, Forest Park area, the basement steps go straight down, and you got a 90-degree turn right there with 3 steps. You ever run into that?
Oh, my God.
We used to have to pick a 1065 straight up and turn it and try to put it down. So the 300 is it's a very accessible machine. It's awesome. Guys will that have ran a 2001 or 1065 for years look at the 300 machine and say, that thing's not clear to main line. guys, I'm here to tell you, it clears main lines. Got one customer here in particular, Fairfield, Ohio, that took a little bit of time to get him to move from the big 2001 down to this, and he would never, ever go back to the other one because it does exactly what we said it would. We recommend a 300 to go up to restore flow in 6-inch lines, right? Anything bigger, then we're wanting to use a 3/4 inch cable, and we move up to a 1065 or a 2001. But yeah, I mean, like Eric said, a hybrid machine, it's 2 machines in one. All you have to do is get an extra drum cable, 100 drum and cable, and you got a front rear adapter.
Yep.
So all that real estate on the truck you're saving. So very versatile machine, hybrid machine, the original. It's a bad boy.
It's a workhorse. Emily can attest to the number of pictures she gets of guys with, I don't know, 20, 25 foot root rats, and they pulled it with a 300. We get those all the time.
Luke here in Middletown, we had a 75th anniversary 300 machine that didn't last very long. Those were gone pretty much a couple of days. But Luke's got one here in Middletown, and Emily, it was about correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it was about 30 to 40 feet at least, a root ball that he pulled out with his 300 machine.
It had to be, yeah.
Yeah. So they are a very versatile machine. It's an awesome tool to have in the van. So awesome. Well, guys, that's the overview on the 300. So if you've got questions, if there's something that we didn't answer for you today or you didn't see, leave us some comments down there in the bottom, and we will be glad to answer any questions you have. And if you need to, we put your territory manager in touch with you, and we come right straight to the job. As part of the Spartan Advantage, we'll show right up at the shop, and we'll be happy to go over anything with you. So
awesome. Eric, great job today, man. Like I said, Bob Vila move over. Eric Boonstra's taking over. Right, Em?
That's right.
All right. Emily, what do we got slated for next week?
Next week, we are going to meet one of our awesome customers. His name is Eduardo Quintero. He's out in California. He's with King Rooter, and he's been a loyal Spartan customer for a long time. Just got featured in one of the trade magazines, so we'll have a lot to talk about with him. I'm
super excited about that one.
Eduardo Quintero, our original sewer raider. I can't wait to get him on. It'll be a good episode. Eric M., any final thoughts for today as we go into our 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, we're walking into this holiday weekend. Be mindful of what it's all about. The independence of this great nation, no greater nation on the planet. Celebrate safely. Take time to relax and enjoy time with family and friends. Practice that safe social distancing. And get ready to hit it next week. Hit it hard and be safe. Em, what you got?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're at Spartan Tool on all the things. We're on YouTube at Spartan Tool Videos. You can check us out at spartantool.com, where you can find all of our great products and read all about them.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am. Eric, again, awesome job today. Thank you very much, guys. Again, I hope you guys have a safe, relaxing 4th of July weekend. This is definitely one of my favorite holidays. 1776. The colonies are getting rowdy, baby. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for some barbecues. I'm ready for some fireworks. I'm ready for some liberty and some freedom. So with that, Sewer Raiders, signing off.